Good afternoon and welcome to the Think Local First radio show. I am your host, Matthew Swinnerton. Thank you very much for joining us today. So, before I say one more word, I want to thank our awesome, supportive sponsors. Thank you so much. This show could not happen without you. We first want to thank Jabico Enterprises. I really want you to listen to the commercials. I know sometimes we tune out during the commercials, but listen to the commercial. They have such a new, entertaining commercial today, so make sure you listen to that. We also have the Sock Shop. They have been supporting us from day one, so we thank you so much for your support. Staff of Life, the actual local natural food market. Thank you for your support. And lastly, King Insurance and Financial for all of your financial needs. Look no further than King Insurance and Financial. So each week we talk with local entrepreneurs, business owners in town. We talk about how they started their business, the challenges they faced in starting that business, the challenges they faced in keeping that business going and making it thrive. And at the end, what drives and motivates them to do what they do. So each week we have 3 entrepreneurs from different businesses. Well, today's show, it's kind of different. This is a special edition of the Think Local First radio show. We are celebrating 25 years of Cruzio Internet. Yes, they are celebrating 25 years of business. Just that alone is a feat. I think I was 15 years old 25 years ago. I didn't even know that the internet existed, and I don't think many did at that time. So, who better than to walk us through that journey, walk us through that 25-year-old journey of Cruzio, and actually walking us through 25 years of tech in Santa Cruz, then the owners of Cruzio. We have with us Chris Nicholson and Peggy, oh, now I'm going to mess it up, Peggy Dolgenos. Now I will not mess it up again.
No problem.
And then we also have, it's very official here, the Director of Technology and Infrastructure of Cruzio, Chris Frost. How you doing, Chris?
Doing all right, thanks.
Or how are you doing, Frost? No. So, I want to start off, before we get into all that we just talked about there, I want to get to know you guys a little bit more personally. And I want to start off with Chris. So, Chris Nicholson, who are you? I'll break it down a little more. Let's start off with, where are you from originally?
I am a California native. I was born in Palo Alto, lived in Redwood City, then down in LA, and then Sacramento area in the Gold Country foothills, and then back up to San Francisco, and then down to Santa Cruz, back up to San Francisco, and then back down to Santa Cruz.
So, where did you go to high school?
I went to high school in Shingle Springs, California, Ponderosa High School, the fightin' something or other.
So you graduated from high school. What was the plan for Chris Nicholson? What was like, okay, what am I going to do after high school?
Oh, it's interesting you bring that up, because Peggy and I were just talking about, what the bleep were our parents thinking, especially my parents, because I graduated from high school, and then they said, well, you've graduated from high school. It's time for you to pay rent if you're going to stay here. And then I was like, okay, well, what comes next? And I already had a job. I've been working full-time since I was 15 years old and all of that. But I had no plan. At that time, I was a bowling alley mechanic. That was the apex of my entire universe, was fixing pin setting machines.
So was the goal to actually own a bowling alley? Was that the next step?
No, like I said, I was just some dumb 18-year-old, and I had no plan. I really didn't. That's one reason why I've since gotten into vocational education and helped set up an ROP class here in Santa Cruz and whatnot. But no, I was just about as clueless as a human and useless as a human being could be.
Did you have that tech bug? Were you interested in techie things around that time?
Mechanical technology. I mean, back then, cars still had spark plugs and carburetors, and if you wanted your $100 car to keep running, you had to utilize those skills. Plus, I was a bowling alley mechanic, so I had analog technology down pat, but there were no computers in my world back then.
Okay.
Pinball machines were sort of the most complex computational device, and cash registers.
Could you actually work on a pinball machine?
Kids today don't even know what we're talking about. But pinball was sort of, cool back then.
It was. Okay, now let's move on to Peggy. So kind of the same question with you. Where are you from? Where do you go to school?
Well, I am a New Yorker, native New Yorker.
What part of New York?
From Pleasantville, New York. And it's a town where everybody gets out and waves when a helicopter or plane goes over.
So upstate, kind of.
No, not really. It's a suburb of New York City. And so we were, my dad worked in the city, and we were just outside. In fact, all the dads in the city, all the dads worked in the city, and every day the area would be drained of all males. And it was just the moms and the milkmen in Pleasantville.
That sounds like another story.
It's a total another story. It's a, Mad Men era thing, I guess.
So, you graduated from high school.
High school, yep. And then college. I went to Yale in Connecticut. And then everybody in my class was going on to the financial industry, stocks and bonds and mergers and acquisitions. And I felt that was... kind of evil. I didn't want to do it. And so then I was at sea. I guess every kid, when you're, done with school, maybe you have a little bit of time where it's just at sea. Unless you've really been on a track and you're saying, oh, I'm going to be a lawyer absolutely from day one, or, I'm an opera singer since I was 5 years old, or ballerina or something. But I didn't know what to do, so I went to China to study Chinese.
Oh, wow.
And I stayed there 4.5 years. And then I came back to the United States, to California, because it's the place you ought to be.
What brought you here? What brought you to Santa Cruz? Did you go to Santa Cruz first, or were you somewhere else?
Actually, I was working for import-export companies, importing baskets to the United States. That was before all the high-tech stuff came from China. And so I was working for a company in San Francisco, and I missed my country. It's being a foreigner sometimes can be hard. And so I moved back to San Francisco to work for that company. And then when I was in San Francisco, I met a young man who was the equipment manager. I was an answering service bookkeeper, which is not an ambitious kind of a goal-oriented thing to be necessarily. But then the equipment manager came in, and I worked nights. I worked from midnight to 8 a.m. every night, all by myself, alone in the office. Except we had 3 cats that kept me company, and they were sweet cats. And the owners of the company told me, we're going to have an equipment manager come in because we have some computers. We need to take care of them. And I thought, I'm going to hate the equipment manager because he's going to get rid of the cats.
Uh-oh.
And that's my solace. So that's who keeps me company. And then the equipment manager came in, and he was a handsome young dude, and he liked the cats. He liked the cats too. He brought a special vacuum cleaner, and he would carefully vacuum the cat hairs out of the keyboards so that we could keep the cats. And so I fell in love.
So, Chris, were you just doing that to be nice to the cats, or was it actually for Peggy?
I got paid by the hour, so if I got paid to vacuum cat hair out of the keyboard, I was all for it.
So
it is a time-consuming job.
If I remember the story right, it was at night, and he was still wearing sunglasses?
Oh, no. That's a different story. That's another friend of mine. It's a different young, handsome man.
He was the milkman.
That was it. Yeah. Okay, let's move on now to Chris Frost. So, Frost, I'm guessing from your accent that you're not from here or Detroit. Where you're from?
I'm originally from Scotland. Moved to the States when I was 16, traveled around a bunch, and I ended up settling here in Santa Cruz just in time to finish high school in Aptos.
So why did you come here to Santa Cruz or in Aptos?
The Lost Boys movie.
Really?
Yeah. We moved to Santa Cruz because my mom is a huge vampire nut. I didn't even know this.
Yeah.
And she wanted to see where The Lost Boys was filmed. So we came here, and we had some friends that lived near here, and we house sat for them for the summer and ended up staying.
So That's pretty cool.
That's a good one.
Yeah, we learned something new today. Yeah. So what did you do from that point on till when you actually came on board at Cruzio? What was your story?
So I finished high school in Aptos and was going to Cabrillo and working retail and just got incredibly bored with it. Ended up taking a job for a friend's company working construction, and in 2003 got hit by a truck. Got in a car accident, hit by a truck, couldn't work construction anymore, and was just looking for absolutely any kind of job. Picked up a job listing on Santa Cruz Jobs and went down and interviewed for this random little company in downtown Santa Cruz. Had no idea about any of it, wasn't particularly techy, beyond just playing with my own computer and home network, and didn't get hired because the interview didn't go particularly well or whatever. And about a week later, they called back and said, actually, we do have a spot for you. Can you come in? And that's how I started out at Cruzio, just working the front desk, helping people that came in customer service.
So what year was that roundabout?
That was 2003.
And that was on down at the bottom of Pacific?
That was down at Pacific Avenue, yeah, across the street from the bus station.
Do you remember who actually hired you?
Yeah, it was James Hackett.
Oh, really? So he was kind of new at that time too, wasn't he?
James, I think he'd been customer service manager for a little while by that point.
A few years. He'd been there a few years, but not that long.
Yeah. So we're just talking about it. Now, how many hundreds of people have actually worked for Cruzio over the 25 years? And James probably interviewed, 150 of those?
Oh, yeah.
Significantly more. I know I've interviewed hundreds over the years.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we all interview everybody, usually.
Tell us about that real fast. We probably have like a minute, but yeah, Chris doesn't, but everybody else.
It's better if I don't talk to people. That's the consensus.
He just sits there at the interview process. Yeah.
And looks threatening.
Tell us about, what is that interview process?
Well,
I think it's very unusual.
It is interesting. What we mostly promote from within. In fact, exclusively, pretty much. All of our senior staff have worked for us for since the beginning. Like Frost just said, he started at the front counter. Most of us did. I started at the front counter myself, and we find that that's just the best way to get local people, train them, and get them in on it. And it really makes for an excellent company because people understand each other's jobs much better. But one of the things we do is it's kind of a management training exercise. One of the most important things as a manager to be able to do is to find, to interview people and figure out who do you want to be part of your team and how do you get them started as part of the team and working together. So we just feel that it's good for the interviewee to see who they're going to be working with, but it's also good training for the interviewer that maybe someday they'll be a manager and they'll have interviewed dozens of people.
Great. Okay, so we want to follow up a little bit more with Frost. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
If your online experience is like this, and you'd like it to be much more like this, then call Jubico on 454-0850. The team at Jubico has spent the last 13 years transforming web experiences that feel like this to this. So if dealing with the web can sometimes feel like this,
the latter consisted simply of 6 hydro-optic
then
modules.
call us at 454-0850 or check us out online at jabico.com. JABICO.com.
From apples to zebras? Well, you can buy anything online, except peace of mind and professional, caring advice. Hello, I'm Matthew King of King Insurance and Financial. Our family-owned agency is celebrating its 50th anniversary, providing Santa Cruz County businesses and residents with valuable advice. King Insurance is proud of being recognized as experts on the Affordable Care Act, better known as Obamacare, as well as on the insurance products you need to protect your business, home and auto, and on the life insurance and financial services you need to protect your family's future. Celebrating our 50th anniversary with you is an important milestone for us. Whether guiding a devastated client through the loss of a home fire or advising everyone through the confusing and unsettling new healthcare laws, we're always proud to be here for you. Yes, you can buy just about anything on the internet, but if you want peace of mind and professional, caring advice, call on King Insurance and Financial, a proud member of Think Local First, 688-1434, or visit us online at santacruzinsurance.com.
The first thing they look at is your shoes. Hi, I'm Ellen Gill.
And if they see you in shoes and socks from Sock Shop and Shoe Company, they'll likely look up to you. Hello, I'm Eric Gill.
Sock Shop and Shoe Company has proudly outfitted Santa Cruz County in the best footwear for more than 25 years.
And with your support, we've turned our little Sock Shop and Shoe Company into a one-of-a-kind shoe store that attracts shoppers worldwide.
As the quintessentially locally owned Santa Cruz store, Sock Shop and Shoe Company proudly supports the efforts of Think Local First to promote the locally owned and independent businesses that make our community a special place to live and work.
And we hope you keep in mind all the local entrepreneurs who provide us with such wonderful variety of places to eat, work, and live, and who build a strong local economy for all of us. When you head out to shop, please remember to
Think local first. People will look up to you.
Welcome back to the Think Local First radio show. I am your host, Matthew Swinnerton, and I am joined today with Chris, Peggy, and Frost from Cruzio. So I want to continue with Frost. So Frost, you got hired, you started off at customer service at the front desk. Give me your progression. So how many years has that been then?
So I started out in 03. I was gone for about a year and a half and really came back and started heavily working in 05.
Okay.
So almost 10 years now. And I started out front desk, and pretty rapidly they tagged me and moved me back into tech support, figuring that I could probably pick this stuff up. Worked in tech support and worked my way up through just answering phones, tech support lead, helping out the rest of the techs with issues, and then eventually managing our tech support group. And, from that point, just started working on bigger picture stuff, kind of where the company's moving as a whole.
He became a citizen too.
Yes,
along the way. One of our success stories of America.
Just recently, right?
A couple of years ago.
Yeah.
2012.
Yeah, not that.
So we're actually bringing people from a reverse commute.
Yeah, and not just from over the hill. But over the pond. Yeah. So 10 years, that's a long time to be at any company. You must think it's okay.
It's all right, I guess.
Yeah, it's okay. They pay my bills.
It's a really great place to work.
Don't get them started.
It's the least like a real job I think I've ever had, where I come to work, I do interesting things every day. And I think it's true for pretty much everyone at Cruzio. We're always doing new things. There's new things to learn all the time. There's a lot of fun, and we work with great people. We're really conscious of the fact that we've built a great team of people that we want to spend every day with. And so we build on that pretty consciously.
And I think, out of anybody, Frost is definitely like, if you need something done, like, okay, I need to, make a stage or something or anything out of the blue, you go to Frost, he'll figure it out.
What was it? You made a giant crocodile with a mouth that opened and closed?
Made all kinds of stuff.
That's one of the best.
I like making things.
Yeah.
But it's anything.
We get to play with power tools.
Yeah. It's like, whether it's like a stage, whether it's like, an antenna, it's like anything. You just come up with it. You have the mindset that you can do that.
Yeah, we can build most stuff. My team's pretty good at coming up with stuff too. So we've got a good group.
So we've already been talking for like 20 minutes or so, and there's probably 3 people out of all our listeners that don't know what Cruzio Internet is. So Frost, why don't you tell me what is Cruzio?
Cruzio is a local internet service provider. That's the basic crux of it. We serve dial-up, DSL, and new high-speed fixed wireless service. We also do web hosting and email services. And then in the past few years, we've started up our Cruzio Works in downtown Santa Cruz, where you can come in and actually use our space instead of having to rent your own office or start up your own physical business space.
So let's talk about how this thing all started. So let me ask Chris and Peggy, what was the exact point, like the genesis of how Cruzio started?
The exact genesis point was in late fall, I think, of 1984. I was sitting in the SCO hot tub reading the San Francisco Chronicle, and they had a story about a group of people in Berkeley called Community Memory. And Community Memory was interesting because they had a big computer, a mini computer, which for you kids out there who have no idea what I'm talking about, is a computer about the size of a dryer or a washing machine, something like that. And they had it connected over copper telephone lines to terminals in places like community centers and the co-op in Berkeley and whatnot. And what they were doing was pioneering the use of this computer technology and this communications technology to provide what was called community networking back then in 1984. Back in 1984, the community networking movement was pretty big because there were a lot of people, younger people, alleged drug abusing younger people in the computer and university and military computer research complex who felt that this technology should be liberated and used by just the normal citizenry. And so they're very adamant that this stuff should be free and open to the public.
Yeah, it was. I think it was a time when people were very idealistic about what could come from technology. Just a certain group of people, and living in the area that we do, Berkeley, San Francisco, Santa Cruz, UCSC. There, people could see the potential for more than just military use, and we were looking at it. People would say things like it would be a way to create a world consciousness, peace
so Santa
around
Cruz.
I know, isn't it? And that instead of like just a broadcast model, which was true with television, radio, or a one-to-one model like with a telephone, that this meant that everybody in the world could talk to everybody else in the world.
Which back then was, recall that the fax machine had basically just appeared. And in fact, later, one of the things that really energized our becoming a business in 1989, of course, was Tiananmen in China. This was a social movement that used fax machines basically to send messages, a lot like a phone tree used to work in the old day politics. That was the social network, was just the group of people who were connected, by phone number or fax number and whatnot. So Peggy and I, we got married in 1987, and between 1984 and 1989, we were playing with the technology and whatnot for our own system. But I would really say that after the hot tub incident, that the next signal event in our history that really propelled us and motivated us was the Tiananmen, and the fact that such a mass movement could be coordinated through just the use of this, what at the time the fax machine was amazing, groundbreaking technology. That these Chinese students could get access to enough fax machines to print, create these handbills, and whatnot, and just pass them around and have this huge mass movement that shook the very foundation of their country. So when Peggy talks about that kind of idealism, back then in the Bay Area, there was EcoNet, there was PeaceNet, there were these various political networks in Northern California. Palo Alto was where PeaceNet and EcoNet, and Berkeley where Community Memory were. And then here in Santa Cruz, there was this homegrown little network of what were called geek houses at the time, where just students would chip in on T1s and put servers up, and then there was a little network that posted mail and messages and all of that. And it was all about this, wow, this makes it possible to coordinate on a heretofore unimaginable scale, person to person, whereas before, media was really just broadcast media. There was no, outside of the telephone, there was no interactive media where you could just have a threaded dialogue or anything with one person to another. So the technology at the time was seen as, of course, a force for liberation. The human race.
So you had this passion, you had this drive, it was exciting, and that's how a lot of businesses start. It's not just the making money part, which it's nice to happen eventually there.
Which is not to be eschewed.
No, definitely not. But it's it seems like most people that we have on the show, it was a drive for something they were excited about, and then it became a business. So I want to talk about that. When did you guys actually say, okay, let's make a real business out of this thing?
Well, I think also when you hear about all of the idealism and all of the great communication that's possible, you have to remember that back then, 1989, all of this was on black screens with single amber letters appearing a couple of seconds at a time, and that was the groundbreaking, the startling thing, and not everybody could see it, I think, but just the geeky people looked at it and said it was fantastic. I remember when Chris and I went to see the in the Whole Earth at
the
co-op, and we went down, and it was way down in the basement, and there were all these, they had all these things for sale. It was kind of like the
50-pound bags of brown rice, and then there was this plywood kiosk with this thing with the keyboard.
And way in the back, behind a whole bunch of stuff, there was this one little monitor that had like an 11-inch square screen, black screen on it, and there was writing on it in electronic glowing letters that said something like, where can I get a good cup of coffee in Portland or something? And it was just like, well, yeah, we could write on this and everybody would see it. It was just a shock. But at the same time, it was so low tech compared to what you see today that you would ignore it. You could just walk right by it.
But that is so pre Twitter, Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
Where can I get a good coffee? I'm in town. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but it was immediately that way. And actually, one of the first things that happened on the internet on DARPANET was all the scientists and all these guys, and they were, the technologists working for the U.S. government and big universities and secret projects they were doing and stuff. And so they had these accounts, and they could pass information to each other. And one of the things they did was, aside from email that just goes one person to one person, they had news groups where you could post something and a lot of people could see it at the same time and somebody else can post. And one of the first things that happened was they started doing a sci-fi. They had all these technical ones, and then they said, oh, yeah, but what about Star Trek, And they started communicating with each other about, all their hobbies and travel and things like that. That's really where the internet grew. It was just the technology was there, and people just started
They were just goofy with it. They
co-opting it, yeah.
Like Unix, which is the operating system, it's the forerunner of Linux, which powers most of the internet, the smart part of the internet. Unix was basically created by these computer scientists to act as a platform for a space game they wanted to play. So they wrote an operating system that became, Unix, that was the foundation of Linux.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I still, when I think back to it, it's really exciting because it's the kind of thing that you don't necessarily expect to blossom the way that it did, commercially and everything. But those sorts of things that you think wow, this could really change the world. And sometimes actually it does. And I think, to me, it's also inspiring that it was so local to where we were and that the people we knew were a big part of it. And, they could see what was happening, push it along. And, eventually now everybody is on the internet. And in a lot of ways, the things we were seeing came true.
We won, yeah.
Except we didn't predict some things like spam and the NSA and, there's all this other stuff that happened too. But
oh yeah, to this day I crack up about this. Peggy and I were the first originators of the KSP Geek Speak radio show, right, which was Call In, and so. In the early days, people were asking what I thought at the time were these incredibly paranoid questions about the network and all that. It was like, if I use a computer, can they see what I'm doing? And I'm like, oh God, are you kidding, man? No, of course not. And nobody cares what you're doing, more to the point. I apologize. I was so wrong.
25 years later.
Yeah.
Or more.
Yeah.
So is it fair to say that you were one of the first, providers of internet access in Santa Cruz?
Well, yeah, private companies providing internet access to private people. We were one of the first in the country. I think we were in the first couple dozen.
One of the
it was,
things about
it was,
Santa Cruz that's is also so cool is that this place was just sort of a loci or locus of this stuff. I mean, we were sort of, strictly speaking, the second provider in Santa Cruz, because one of the geek houses with Matthew Kaufman and Karen Van Brink, they said, oh, let's make this a business. And they got like a T1, and then we moved into that building and got a connection from them. But
yeah, the geeks in Santa Cruz all got together because we'd been getting our internet, like I was saying, just a drip at a time, like a character would appear on your screen and then another one. And we'd been working through UCSC, I think. They were generous about a connection, and then
we had our first connection. We had a very expensive $1,200 modem that connected to Virginia, Arlington, Virginia, 3 times a day to trade messages. Our phone bill was just crazy. And the phone bill was so high that $1,200 for a modem seemed like a good idea.
Oh, no.
So there were a bunch of people doing that in Santa Cruz. A lot of college students at UCSC who, the lab up there was really influential with very generous, handing out the ability to connect to the internet and everything. And then students from UCSC would move off campus, try to get connected. And then ultimately the co-op formed that was ScrewsNet, that we got a whole T1, which is about as much as the slowest DSL speed that you can get. And there were, I don't know how many ISPs and geek houses hanging off that one connection at that point, but it was really groundbreaking at that time. And then then we had to decide whether to be commercial or not. And I think, it was a really big decision for us. But what we figured out was that if we didn't charge for our services, the more customers we had, the worse our service would be, because they'd clog the lines and the computer would get slow, and we wouldn't be able to afford to buy another phone line or another computer.
It was definitely a conscious decision.
So we thought, okay, well, if we charge $5 a month back then, then when we need another computer, we'll have the money to do it. And that was, I guess that was when capitalism like that, the benefits kind of rang for us.
So when we come back, I want to talk to Frost here. I want to see how you guys may maintain this bohemia of a network. So
cutting edge
network. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Thank you.
The first thing they look at is your shoes. Hi, I'm Ellen Gill.
And if they see you in shoes and socks from Sock Shop and Shoe Company, they'll likely look up to you. Hello, I'm Eric Gill.
Sock Shop and Shoe Company has proudly outfitted Santa Cruz County in the best footwear for more than 25 years.
And with your support, we've turned our little Sock Shop and Shoe Company into a one-of-a-kind shoe store that attracts shoppers worldwide.
As the quintessentially locally owned Santa Cruz store, Sock Shop and Shoe Company proudly supports the efforts of Think Local First to promote the locally owned and independent businesses that make our community a special place to live and work.
And we hope you keep in mind all the local entrepreneurs who provide us with such wonderful variety of places to eat, work, and live, and who build a strong local economy for all of us. When you head out to shop, please remember to
think local first. People will look up to you.
From apples to zebras? Well, you can buy anything online, except peace of mind and professional, caring advice. Hello, I'm Matthew King of King Insurance and Financial. Our family-owned agency is celebrating its 50th anniversary, providing Santa Cruz County businesses and residents with valuable advice. King Insurance is proud of being recognized as experts on the Affordable Care Act, better known as Obamacare, as well as on the insurance products you need to protect your business, home and auto, and on the life insurance and financial services you need to protect your family's future. Celebrating our 50th anniversary with you is an important milestone for us. Whether guiding a devastated client through the loss of a home fire or advising everyone through the confusing and unsettling new healthcare laws, we're always proud to be here for you. Yes, you can buy just about anything on the internet, but if you want peace of mind and professional, caring advice, call on King Insurance and Financial, a proud member of Think Local First. 688-1434 or visit us online at santacruzinsurance.com.
If your online experience is like this, and you'd like it to be much more like this, then call Jabico on 454-0850. The team at Jabico has spent the last 13 years transforming web experiences that feel like this to this. So if dealing with the web can sometimes feel like this,
The latter consisted simply of 6 hydrocoptic
then
muzzle
call us at 454-0850 or check us out online at jabico.com, jabico.com.
Welcome back to the Think Local First radio show. I am your host, Matthew Swinnerton, and I am joined back with Chris, Peggy, and Frost. So, they opened a business. It became tremendously successful. Everybody has their service. Everything's rosy and golden, and everything's exciting. No, we know that there's always challenges. There's always challenges with running a business. So I want to talk to Frost first. I want to talk about just like the whole network. I mean, this is like a humongous network, and it's like there's so many moving pieces to it. How do you maintain
breaks,
that?
Right? Nothing ever breaks.
Nothing ever.
No,
How many square miles do we serve?
Lots.
Yeah.
I've
Many.
no idea of our square mileage.
It's the whole county.
Couple
It's
thousand.
More than
the whole
4.
county plus,
And beyond
plus
Santa
more.
Cruz County.
Yeah, we got
Santa
Bay
Clara
Area.
County, so
Yeah, we have
4,000
service
square
from
miles.
Watsonville all the way up to Fremont. So our network's huge. We have everything from fiber service to fixed wireless, licensed wireless backhauls. We're on mountaintops. We're on buildings. There's probably 50, 60 locations that we have equipment where we're serving people from or at. And there's a lot of stuff to keep track of. We've got a really solid technical team at Cruzio. And we've got the guys that, we've got a team that will go up on rooftops and mountaintops in the rain and the snow.
That's the best part of the job.
Mountaintops in the rain
Yeah.
and the snow is absolutely the best part of the job. And I don't think they appreciate it quite enough.
We'll learn them.
We'll go up on Loma Prieta and run a generator in the middle of winter when the power fails up there, just to make sure that service is maintained. And when we've got problems at customer locations, we've got our field operations team that'll roll out and resolve customer issues directly at their end. And having a solid team that are reliable is the core part of that.
Awesome. So, Chris and Peggy, what wakes you up at 2 a.m? What stresses you? Like all of a sudden, like, oh no, I gotta do this, or no, what stresses you about the business?
The cats. They
The
need
cats.
to be let out.
We're talking about cruising.
It's always cats. Yeah. No, I think actually what it is we're really lucky to be in a business that I think benefits the community.
Mm-hmm.
Not many communities have an independent internet service provider to keep the big guys honest and to be a real competition for it. And we take that as an important responsibility, actually. And we feel like we've got to get the best service possible to everybody. I think a lot of people assume like, oh, a big company, their service is always on or whatever. Our record is as good or better than any of those, Comcast, AT&T, any of them. But because we're the little guy, we sort of have to prove ourselves all the time. I think people just take, PG&E's out for a few hours, but if you're a little company, they're like, well, they're not a big company. So, so we just are firing on all cylinders all the time. We've got with our staff, who's amazing, we have to be as good as a big utility company like PG&E. People don't want their internet down for even a second, and so it is a big challenge for us. And then we're also moving constantly into new technology, the field that we're in. So we are constantly having to learn new things. And I think I wake up in the middle of the night, or I'm up at night, just thinking, I got so much to do. There's so much we want to do every single day. With the new fiber builds and everything, we have so much to learn and so much to do every day.
Yes. What do you think, Chris?
Well, we really keenly appreciate, especially our business customers who make their living in part utilizing our services. So, Frost and Mark and the other people in the tech team can tell you that I am something of a nag about we have certain core values. One of them is that we never buy one of anything. So we have shelf spares for everything, and we try and keep. We try and avoid single points of failure, for instance. And so, over the years, we've had to develop a huge infrastructure capability, not only for deploying our own network resources like now fiber, which I'm happy to talk about in a minute, but also things like backup power. I mean, when you run like a utility like we're really running, you have to run more than just your own gear. You have to provide environmental, you have to provide backup environmental, you have to provide backup power. After the fiber cut of March 2009, March 2009, we realized that we had to go into, we had to become a wireless company, and that's why we got on the mountaintops and all that. We have 10 gig of fiber coming in that we need to keep going, and then we have half a gig of redundant backhaul over the mountains that we have to keep going. Fleet of vehicles we have to keep going, all of our technicians, a huge shelf stock of all sorts of parts and everything, because the point is the network breaks, and so we have to maintain this vast apparatus to minimize, the points that the network will break, but also to mitigate, to fix the thing. So it's like a large part, and in large part, that's sort of Frost's job. He's our layer one guy. That's the physical network is all on Frost's shoulder. It's an incredible,
no pressure,
stressful, pressureful.
Yeah, he does a great job too.
He has fun. I have to say that if you're a sort of like to work with your hands, former bowling alley mechanic kind of guy, like climbing the tower at Loma Prieta is just awesome. You're at 3,000 feet, and then you're on top of this 80-foot tower, and it's just a very fun part of the job to sort of get out there and.
Unless it's windy.
Or snowing. I actually pulled the first generator duty like in April of 2009 or something. I had to go up there in the snow. People don't realize that it snows.
With the pumas around.
Right? Yeah.
There's a fair amount of wildlife up on the mountaintops. Yeah. We have a camera network that covers our mountaintop sites, and we're constantly getting. There's guys that just monitor the cameras, and there's a couple of deer cameras up there that just grab images whenever animals move in front of them. And we're constantly getting bobcats, mountain lions. There's a nesting pair of eagles up there. Lots of deer, foxes, everything. It's really cool.
Yeah, we'll put some in the newsletter so people can see them. I've been collecting some of those pictures.
That would be cool.
But it is amazing.
Okay, so I had a bunch of questions that our audience had, and I want to ask you. I'm just going to run through a few of them. And this is the first one. Why I'm asking this is because I think we had this question on the show once, and then me and Frost somehow got in a discussion with this maybe a few months ago at one of your bounce hours. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the question is, we are getting an influx of high-tech companies in town, many with Silicon Valley comparable wages. What is going to happen to the real estate market? Are we going to have higher than, I'm not sure what I said, but basically houses prices are going to go higher.
Or like San Francisco.
Yeah, because we have all these companies are coming in with these like 100,000 plus wages.
That's yes, and also be aware that as employers, we have a hard time because our staff can't necessarily afford to live so close to work. We're working with various people at the county level and the city level to represent that, and also hosting, political discussions about that. Santa Cruz County is down several thousand housing units, and that's a hole that we have to climb out of. And I've especially been pleased to hear some of the stuff I'm hearing from city council candidates addressing that.
Interesting. Okay. How about next question? I'm going to go rapid fire through it. How do you compete in a market against companies like Comcast and AT&T?
Customer service. Customer service.
That's it, huh?
That's it.
We're better.
Yeah,
better, faster.
You've got to be significantly better on customer service. If you can deliver a better product, that's great. But if you're not better on customer service, it doesn't matter. The big name's always going to beat you.
Yeah, and I think actually where we are, we're really lucky that the community, welcomes an independent provider. Not every big community is ready for that kind of thing. People take a chance on us. We really appreciate it. As I said, it's a real responsibility as well. But where we are, the big companies don't invest in the infrastructure. As far as Cruzio has been dependent on AT&T or other infrastructure, it's been very disappointing, and we know that, and we've been building our own. We've really been, we have the fastest connections available in town and in the county right now. We can give gigabit service or 100 megabit service to a lot of places. We have gigabit buildings, and we're getting more online, and we're building as fast as we can. But that's how we compete. If we have a gigabit to your house and somebody else has, 20 megs, then we're going to win.
Yeah.
We know that. So we're investing and building.
We started pushing a few years ago. We decided that we wanted to have 100 megabits available in residential service in Santa Cruz. And a few months ago, we got the first building in downtown Santa Cruz.
Was that the 2030 North Pacific?
2030 North Pacific.
Yeah.
Anyone in that building can get 100 megabit residential service now. And that was a huge jump for us. I'd been pushing for that, and we've been trying to get the network built to support that for a long time. Santa Cruz is a secondary or tertiary market for most of the big companies. There aren't enough people here. There isn't enough density here for it to be worth the big companies to invest a lot of money. You're not going to see fiber to the home from some of these big companies in Santa Cruz until long after it's been other places in the country.
So to move on, because I think it's kind of going where we're kind of going this direction. This last question someone asked, be sure to ask Chris and Peggy to cover their vision for broadband, thinking locally first, and how it is going to go, how it's been going so far, I guess. So what's your grand vision? You had 25 years. Now what's the next 25 years?
Yeah, you never know what's going to be the next big thing. And if you look if you look at a graph,
I want Chris to say soon too. Yeah.
Yeah, if you look at a graph of internet usage and you see what a big difference Netflix made to how much internet everybody's pulling into their house. We don't know what the next thing like that is going to be, and we have to be ready for it. We're the ones that are going to be providing it. So what we want to do is to get every house in the county, if we can, hooked up to a really, really fast internet connection. So whatever that next big thing is, you're going to be able to do it.
I know what the next big thing is.
What is it, Chris?
Here's our grand vision, and I'm so pleased to say this because business has a lot of inertia, and when you want to do something big, there's even more inertia. What I'm very happy to say is that we have started the process of building out a fiber to the home network in Santa Cruz, the city of Santa Cruz.
Wow.
We're going to do downtown, we're going to do Harvey West, we're going to do the west side first. We have started that process. It's a multi-year process. First comes the engineering. My head's ready to explode because of the details of all of this, but I'm so happy to be doing this. The next big thing, this has just sort of hit the news, is probably something either using the Oculus Rift VR headset or Magic Leap now, which is right now, Peggy mentioned, with Netflix, that's sort of a downstreaming thing. You're downloading content, and the content, even high-resolution video content, which is large, comes down one direction. I think once VR becomes, like, especially massive multi-participant VR using something like Magic Leap or the Oculus Rift, you're going to be moving a lot of data back and forth, and it's going to require something more than the asynchronous download and then one upload type of scenario. And really, fiber is the only thing to handle that. So when we're crunching the numbers, because building this network, like I say, is going to be incredibly expensive, oh my God, but also a lot of effort and whatnot, a lot of logistics and everything, we're going to be doing it right as this new application is going to be hitting the consumer market in a couple of years, this VR application. So I'm just both so happy to finally blurt out, we're going to build a fiber to the home network. Ah!
So everybody should be calling right now, right, to get on the list?
No, everybody should be getting ready to pay us for their fiber connection, frankly. And we're talking crazy low prices. I don't want to say something on the radio and then be committed to, doing that. Cause
Peggy, you said $5 was the connection fee, right, per month?
No, that was when it was one character every few seconds.
Yeah.
If you want that,
your VR fix is gonna cost a little bit more. But anyway, that's what our grand plan is, and that's the kind of application. That and something like telemedicine. When our daughter was at Lucille Packard for 2 weeks in Stanford, she had a number of CAT scans and a number of MRIs. And for what's considered a rural community in the insurance world, which is why we have a shortage of doctors and whatnot, telemedicine is going to become more important, so that if you have an MRI and it's like several gigabits, larger than 10 Netflix movies, and it needs to go from Dominican to Stanford, and that on top of a teleconference, a high-res teleconference, and maybe even remote surgery. That's the next big application.
Or genomics. There's so many different things that it could be.
UCSC, they're working with data
I'm so sorry.
sets.
Actually, I'm going to have to cut you guys off because we only have like one more minute, and I want to make sure about the big 25-year anniversary.
Oh, yeah.
So,
November
Peggy, can you tell us?
7th, 5:30 to 9 p.m. It's the first Friday in November. We are putting out all the stops. I can sound like Stefan on Saturday Night Live. We're going to have searchlights over the building. There's going to be two bands, and they're awesome.
Beer.
both
Coffee
of them.
Zombie Collective.
Yep, and the
Mike's Band.
Mike's Band
Mike's
is what
Band.
we call it. It's
Everybody's
called
going to
Jam
Mike's Band.
And they're both fabulous.
Yeah.
They're fantastic.
And beer.
We're going to have we're going to be handing out swag. You'll get light sticks. You can take photos. There's going to be art going on.
Ohm Gallery is doing
with
like
the
a beautiful
lighting.
light display.
Yep. Matthew Swinnerton, party holder extraordinaire, is in charge of the party aspect.
I'm not sure in charge, but we'll. No,
Yeah.
MC Swinnerton.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's just going to be the most fabulous party we've ever had, and you may remember the various
Gala.
parties we've had over the years. We do throw fantastic parties, so please come first Friday in November, 5:30 to 9 p.m. If you get there early, you get more of more of a choice of the swag,
Beer.
and more beer probably. So we're looking forward to seeing everybody then, and just saying thank you for 25 years. It's really been incredible.
Yeah.
Everybody's
Santa
so
Cruz
creative.
is the best community in the world.
Such
to do
participation.
business. It really is.
This
I
doesn't
really
happen
love it.
without the customers.
It's what? Yeah.
It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's really the customers. It's like we're going to have a red carpet for the customers.
Great. Well,
Just
thank you so much. This has been a great hour. I feel like we can have another 2 more hours. So thank you for Chris, Peggy, and Frost for coming to our show. Turn in next week on the Think Local First radio show. Have a good weekend.